Since it first aired in 2012, Chicago Fire has told the story of the firefighters, paramedics, and rescue personnel at Firehouse 51 in Chicago. Now, 10 years and 217 episodes later, the show is prepared for its 11th season, but sadly, not as soon as fans may have expected. Want to know why the popular show had its 11th season delayed? Keep on watching to find out. First, let's take a look at exactly what Chicago Fire is. Chicago Fire is an NBC television show that details the dangerous and oftentimes deadly lives of the people at the fictitious Firehouse 51 station. As can be guessed by the name, the show takes place in Chicago, much like its sibling shows Chicago PD and Chicago Med, which detail the lives of the Chicago Police Department and the Chicago Medical Centers. The series are connected by more than just their names. Characters from Chicago Med and PD were both introduced in Chicago Fire, and the show itself started as a backdoor pilot for both shows. The series and station are led by Matthew Casey, Kelly Severide, and Chief Wallace Bowden. The show is loved by fans for the high-risk situations the characters are often put into. Another adored feature is the chemistry between said characters. When a character is put into danger, you know another one on the show will do whatever they possibly can to help them out, making the deaths in the series hit that much harder. Chicago Fire has also been praised for some of its romantic situations, which can often sometimes be awkward, simulating an actual relationship between two people who currently work together, and how bumpy and ugly it can get. Next, let's talk about some of Chicago Fire's reviews. While the show has received praise from many fans for the relationships between the characters and the element of surprise in regards to which characters will live and which will die, the show has also been the target of criticism. There is not a large group of people that dislike the show. The type of feedback that Chicago Fire has is usually not too harsh, with props for the show tied into it. One of the biggest criticisms is that, while the show has a great cast and plots that can be quite interesting, it simply isn't breaking new grounds within the world of television. Many critics say that the show is not great, but it isn't horrible, deeming it watchable. On the other hand, for people who don't watch shows through the lens of a critic, the show is worth watching. Fans enjoy the show, as to the best of its ability, it gives them a feel of what it's like to be in the line of duty. Of course, the show cannot showcase every single feature of being a firefighter, but it can show how dangerous it is just from the eyes of someone who is just an observer. Now, let's talk about the 11th season delays. The 11th season of Chicago Fire was set to be released very soon in 2022, during the month of August. Recently, it turned out that fans would not be able to see the new season this month, but will instead have to wait over a month to see their favorite characters in action again. They'll have to wait over a month for September. All of the One Chicago series, Fire, Med, and PD, will all be released on the same day. All of the season's premieres will be released on September 21st. The first show to be aired will be Chicago Med at 8 p.m., with Chicago Fire coming on after it at 9 p.m. Finally, Chicago PD will come on at 10. Chicago Fire is coming to its 11th season, while Med will be going into its 8th season, and PD premiering its 10th. The reasoning for the shows airing on the same date could be in an attempt to keep a constant rate for the programs. Currently, Chicago PD and Chicago Fire are currently tied for the 7th most watched shows on television, with Chicago Med being ranked only 8 spots lower at number 15 on the same list. Now, let's talk about some of the fans' favorite characters on the show and why. With a show that has many characters as Chicago Fire, people's opinion on those characters are undoubtedly going to be polarizing. Some fans love characters and anyone who crosses said character, while the other side of fans feel the exact opposite. One character that many fans found themselves enjoying is Emily Foster. Foster, played by Annie Alonzo, came onto the show later than the other characters. Joining in the 7th season, Foster was tasked with the difficult task of replacing a beloved character who's been there for much longer. Foster turned out to be a good replacement, as fans found themselves loving her independence. Another character on the show that fans very much enjoyed, the character of Kelly Severide, who has arguably gone through the most changes compared to his peers. Kelly has dealt with many traumatizing things on the series, but has managed to maintain a professional attitude throughout the show, which resonates with many of the show's fans. A character on the show that is, for the most part, liked by fans is Otis. Despite often finding ways to get on both the characters and the fans' nerves, Otis is a loyal character, which was one of the main reasons fans took a liking to him. Next, let's talk about what Chicago PD is. After the success of Chicago Fire came Chicago PD in 2014. The series is similar to Chicago Fire, but instead focuses on the intelligence unit. The series is currently on its 10th season. After the 3rd season, the series was renewed for an 8th, 9th, and 10th season, making this season the final of the renewal deal. It has not been said yet if the series will be picked up for an 11th season or not. The series focuses on on the fictitious precinct of the 21st District. The leader of the district is Sergeant Hank Voight, played by Jason Begay. Voight is as tough on the outside as police chiefs would like to be, but as fans watched him on the show, they quickly realized that it was simply a facade, and he was incredibly loyal to not only the cops and detectives he rules, but also to the victims of crimes. So much so, in fact, it often goes too far. Another character on the show is Senior Detective Antonio Dawson, who once arrested Voight, which simply goes to show that Chicago PD has the same awkward situations that fans of Chicago Fire are so fond of. Now, let's talk about Chicago Med. After Chicago Fire came Chicago PD, and after that came Chicago Med. While all of the shows faced some criticism for not showing anything new in the world of first responders, Chicago Med took double the criticism due to the whopping amount of medical unit shows that are already out there. While critics found that Chicago Med offered nothing new compared to shows like Scrubs, Grey's Anatomy, or General Hospital, it was still a watchable show. Fans of the show did not find it simply watchable though. Many people around the world enjoy the show, according to ratings. Maybe not as much as Chicago Fire or PD, but still a great amount. The show focuses on the, once again, fictional Gaffney Chicago Med Hospital. This time, the show's place of work is based on a real place, the Rush University Medical Center. The show is one of the main shows out of the three to cross over, as both the fire department and police department of Chicago often need to help people find their ways to the hospital. Chicago Med was released on November 17, 2015. There are 7 seasons currently out, with the 9th being released in 2022. There is currently no information regarding the possibility of the show's 10th season. Finally, let's talk about everything we know about season 11 of Chicago Fire. As we've already discussed, the 11th season of the series will come out in September, but what else do we know? There haven't been a lot of things released regarding the show. Well, we know that, without spoiling it, 2 characters got married and went to a cabin for their honeymoon. We also know that at the end of the last episode for season 10, a truck arrived outside of it. Many have speculated that it could be connected to a decision made to testify. Of course, whether or not that's the plot of the 10th season, we cannot say. With characters, it is hard to say who will return and who will be written off. One character will be on the show is Violet McCamey, as actress Hanako Greensmith posted a photo of her on set when filming had just begun. It's safe to say that we will probably also see Joe Cruz, Kelly Severide, and Chief Wallace Bowden. Of course, save for Violet, these are all simply guesses, and we do not know who will be returning and who will not be. That's what you get with the show like Chicago Fire. Sometimes beloved characters are killed off with no explanation. Chicago Fire came out in 2012, and now it's back for its 11th season. Thankfully, fans will only have to wait a month as opposed to a year or more. The show is set to release on September 21st on NBC. Will you be watching? Let us know down below.